Hello, beautiful people. Thanks for joining me and my lovely, lovely friend Tina. She has a new YouTube channel called The Aftermath 83, and she is on TikTok. That's how we basically got together because I follow her on TikTok. I love her TikTok account. Her wisdom that she shares from experiences that I firmly believe that we should all we all benefit from it, even myself. Also to talk about royalty because she also talks about Harry and Meghan a lot. But before I start, the raffle happened automatically because it's a site. This is a raffle, Tina, that I had.
Okay.
The site that it was on, they automatically do it. I have nothing to do with it. And the lady who won is a lady called Catherine. I'm not going to give her last name, from Australia. Okay. Bridget P, maybe I haven't deleted anything. I've been talking to Tina. So the name of the lady who won, her name is Catherine. And I've been in contact with her, and her painting is going to be shipped to Australia very soon. Okay, so thanks for all of you. And Melissa Crawford, please let's show some love to Tina. And Tina, please do tell us about yourself.
Wow, where do I start? To be honest with you, I found myself on TikTok for one through the Johnny Depp Amber Heard court case. I sort of magnetized to it like so many others, who've been through abuse, who was watching someone pretending to be, in my perspective, a victim of abuse, and they weren't. They were an abuser, and it wasn't a choice. It was sort of like, when you've been through abuse, you're very emotional, you're very in tune to truth and lies and accountability. And for me personally, when I've watched every part of my family suffer at the hands of abuse and the aftermath of that abuse, to watch someone try and deconstruct domestic violence as a whole, really, I just had this urge to speak out, and I've not got Facebook, I've not got anything like that. I just discovered swiping, then Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, then that was it. Then I found my voice and I was off, and I just wanted to convey that you can't blur the lines on this. There are too many people suffering, now in this, who probably won't come out. And watching my brothers growing up in the same abuse and how they were treated differently, age ranges and refuges, because the boys may intimidate the women, and it's a tricky, messy area anyway. And I just think truth lies in, and I think when you've been through abuse, truth really is important, because a lot of people that are victims of abuse, mental, financial abuse, anything like that, truth is important.
Yeah.
So then it became, I was speaking out. The more I was speaking out and sharing my experience and my trauma, the more followers I was gaining and more people sharing. And it sort of became like this safe place, where people were talking and sharing their stories. And it's just grown from there, really. And it's been the aftermath of domestic violence, So, yeah.
Is that why you named your channel The Aftermath? Because it's what's happened after, what's next after everything that you go through. Is that it?
Yeah, because I believe that once you're out, you're free. Everyone's like, yeah, you can be happy, but you've got all these inbuilt behaviors from living in that regime. They don't go away, and that's always a part of your story. And I found myself, I had the man, I had the house, I had the children, holidays abroad, but every few months I would just absolutely crumble mentally and just be brought back. But I was unable to understand why. And you start to really, when you grow up in abuse, like my earliest memory, 3 years old, being dragged out into the garden, trigger warning. And with my sisters and brothers lined up, as he set all our toys on fire in front of us and made us watch. This kind of stuff, it doesn't leave your mind when you get out of, and you're free, this becomes the core. This is what you learn. This was your education, fear, understanding emotion and all around you, reading the room, sensing a mood. that becomes your core, you know. So when you're out and you're free and you're trying to navigate life, but you're running away from that time in your life mentally, it's still there. And I found myself just going back. And since, as I've gone on now, I realized they were just triggers in my life which would take me back. It was sort of pulling me back, you know, to that place. And you can never really move past it until you understand it and connect the dots, you know. So, and that was pretty much our regime until I was 14. And my mom sort of decided enough when her mom sadly was really poorly. Again, you see Harry and Meghan and like the Queen, and that was enough for her to go, no, I'm going. But that day I didn't pack a bag, and because we've been there a million times, we packed a bag and you go back, and she left that time. So I was there in a refuge at 14, homeless, no, just the clothes on my back. And I was able to go to the charity building next door, the Samaritans, and rummage through and create a new wardrobe out of nothing, virtually, like donations. But that was the happiest moments. And it's become a core, because I love a charity shop now. It's became a massive, that's a good connection, you know, because I think when you go that low, you have to find the good to drag yourself out. And that was a moment for me. So we have got those good moments and those good connections, but we shove it all out the way, which creates the aftermath, you know.
And I just wanted to ask you something.
Yeah.
Through all the years that you were, because you were a child,
Mm-hmm.
you were witnessing that. Did you feel impotent, like helpless? What was your major feeling, or did you feel that it was the normal thing and you thought everybody was the same?
I think because it was back, saying that, I think it's like it now. It's just the shame, the embarrassment, you know, when it's hard, because when we had that going on, here we go. My sister also, the aftermath. So I feel like in the aftermath, you know, I've got 3 siblings. 2 of them boys ended up in prison before they were 20. Me and my sister ended up as teenage moms. You know, we were just trying to get away from that life. And it leads to, that's the education you've had. You know, you don't focus on school. Like, life is survival. So that's, you know, you realize it's wrong, but everyone else around you sort of just look on, you know. The police used to come, sort of take him away, but then he could return the next day in our situation, you know. So it sort of just validated that there was not a lot of help, you know. So you just carry on. And the few connections we had with, for me, Johnny Depp, with the text he sent about her, you know, we used to sit around a table and go to dark places and hope and pray that bad stuff would happen, because you've got no physical control. So you just, and these dark thoughts sit with you as well. That you're a child, you know. It's a real mucky place, and that don't go away. So that hounds you for the rest of your life until you sort of, in my eyes, connect the dots and realize you can grow past that by understanding it and learning new ways and finding the good in you. So yeah.
Did you grew up in the United Kingdom, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we see nowadays a lot of mental health, Prince William with the homeless, all kinds of things. Were those programs available to you? Or do you think it was that your mom was too scared to leave, or she felt, because from but my experience is different, but I know a lot of people don't want to leave because they have been conditioned into thinking that they can't survive without that person.
I've got a follower, and she's really brave, and she's in that position of being in a refuge now, and she's documenting every last bit of it. And it's a weird one for me. When my mom never got told, all the times the police come out, she never got told this refuge was there. So when she actually found out about it and realized it was, you know, a mile away, to know that that was there all that time. and this safe space, but there was there was nothing, you know. So once she realized that, but my follower is going through that now. I see a post the other day, and it's that financial abuse side, you know. My mom, when she left, and my mom's done a couple of posts with me on the aftermath, but then she goes, I don't want to talk about it anymore because she doesn't understand the point in speaking about it. And I think she hasn't got what we've got now in this open talk. She hasn't been brought up around that, you know, and she's got it all packed down. And my follower was saying basically that just paying her own bills again, just being in control of her finances is a scary thing, because she's never had to do that because her abuser took hold of all of that. So that fear of stepping away from that, and also she's got, you know, and this is a common occurrence, the children tend to return back to the abuser because of their trauma bond too. And I watched that in our family, you know, where it's a lot for the children to take on, to leave and think, have I got to lose it all? And they feel this guilt. We did. You know, that day we left, we couldn't go in the refuge that night, so we had to go to a bed and breakfast. My mum had £5 in her purse because of the financial abuse. That's all the money she had. She wasn't allowed to wear a bra, you know, because that was too sexual. So it's easier and safer to stay with them, especially when there's no one flagging up and having these conversations, you know.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and when you found yourself at 14, homeless with nothing, I mean, what did you think?
To be honest, after watching and waking up in the dead of night to screaming, explosions, all of that, that first night in the refuge was the best night of my life. although, you know, to be going to school from a refuge, it then becomes, you know, because people don't have these conversations. A lot of my friends, their moms didn't want them coming because I think they have this imagery that it's one big room, loads of beds, like, and it's not. It was like a home. It was like a marvelous place with loads of women who have all been through the same. And one night, one of the women wanted to return back to her abuser, that trauma bond so strong. And all the women and the children sort of sat with her all night. And she was rocking, literally rocking. And all the children could relate to her children having fear, thinking, we got it, we knew, you know, the fear that they were going through. So
the uncertainty. They didn't know what was waiting for them.
Yeah. But at the same time, we were glad we weren't them, and it wasn't our mom rocking wanting to go back to.
Anyway. I know how you feel. It's like, you know, it's like you're happy it's not you that's going through. It's your sense of survival that, you know, because you're literally in survival mode, that, you know, you're looking out for yourself as a child. You know, and you're just glad you're not in that environment anymore, and you're afraid to go back to it, kind of thing. Is that correct?
Yeah. Whilst carrying this extreme empathy of understanding every emotion and fear that they were feeling. But the women stayed with her all night, and she never went back, and she's now a counsellor and helps people. So, you know, for anyone that's scared to get out, although you have to give up your home and it's scary, your children will sleep, you know, without fearing if you're going to make it, you know. And that's the reality. You're going to school and you're not thinking, you're just hoping every time you walk in the house, it's picking up, sensing the mood. And I suppose that's why I find myself speaking on Harry and Meghan, but more of a emotional sense, because bottom line is, this has, from what I perceive, affected a lot of people. There is a reaction. And I think when you've been through abuse, you always question yourself, why did you do that? Why did I do that? There's no whys. And I think Harry and Meghan need to start addressing, why are people reacting this way, you know?
Yeah. From my point of view, I don't talk a lot. I mean, I share bits and pieces of my story, but I never really share how bad it was, When I did try to share it, believe it or not, I got a lot of people saying, "Why are you talking about that anymore? You are you trying to get your ex-husband fired, trying to take away his livelihood?" And I'm thinking, I I had my livelihood taken away 10 years ago. I had 3 murder attempts on my life. I was a single mother. He was in a powerful position. Nobody took pity on me, wondering how is Paula going to feed her own kid? What my son was going through with all the lies that he was traveling all over the world, and there were newspaper articles, and the Norwegian police didn't want to investigate. He lost, and the funny thing is he lost all the court cases, and yet I was called a child traffic, and all kinds of things. You have no idea. And I wasn't even bashing my ex. I was just saying, I won the case and he did this and that. And people were like, why can't you let it go? Well, I am 54. I'm going to be 55 this November.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years. My reputation is absolutely destroyed in spite of the fact that I won all the trials. My son has, thankfully, he's studying aerospace engineering in Canada. But
Wow.
my son shouldn't have gone through the things that he went through. His childhood was stolen. I would go to bed at night not knowing how I was going to feed my son, not knowing whether, my life was going to be threatened or anything like that. My son was terrified of going to school because he was worried he was going to be taken away and go back to his father, who was very abusive. So, and I get a lot of trash from people, and even though I won all the court cases, but this is why I react so badly to people like Amber Heard and Harry and Meghan, and have a false victimhood narrative, because I feel insulted. I really do. I feel insulted for people like you, for people like my son, for people like me and other women, because it diminishes, it denigrates everything we go through. And it makes it harder for people like us, to actually be more credible or believed, or to get programs running to help us do that. I remember I'll give you one little example. I have this, and I usually put lipstick because even this, when I don't wear lipstick, I have this thing here, this sort of thing. Some people leave me really nasty comments that they're disgusted by it because my ex punched me so hard, the lip completely burst apart, right? So I went to the Norwegian police station. I was like bleeding, and I was apologizing to them for disturbing them, for coming to us first, and then they gave me a sheet of paper to write what was I complaining about, and I remember writing, and the blood, because it's you can see it's pretty steep, and the blood is like, pouring down on this sheet of paper. And then one of the policemen said that for me to leave because I was upsetting the real Norwegian. What they mean by real Norwegian is blonde, blue eye, because I'm not. Norway is the only country in the world that they make that very distinct difference. So and I remember people would tell me, why are you coming to the police station? Somebody, because we were fortunate of a certain status, so they I felt embarrassed. I felt, you feel helpless. So when I start talking about it, people think that because I won all the court cases, my life is okay. I have spent 10 years of my life, which I will never get back. My son's childhood is ruined. I can't give Henrik that back. I have lupus. I have scleroderma diffuse. I have secondary Raynaud syndrome. My reputation is destroyed to this day. And people don't understand that, especially now with social media.
And that's why I think it's really important for conversations to happen, because, you said about saying sorry for being there with a blooded lip, and that had happened to you, yet you're apologizing. This accountability we always take. We were forced to take this feeling bad, the shame, the guilt, and I'm sorry for being an inconvenience on you. But I tell you what, life was pretty much an inconvenience for us. So actually, no. And that's what, and I am sorry that happened to you. And Paula, I can't explain how many people, how many followers I've got who have got similar stories, some worse, some better. But I think the thing is as well, to get through life, I've always had to find balance. You know, I think everyone can relate, oh, so-and-so's had it worse than me. They've had it worse than me. And by doing that, you're belittling your own pain. You know, you're not taking your own pain in. But then I look at the likes of Harry and Meghan, who can't find that balance and understand that, especially with Harry, when he's in with his royal duties, such poverty, such illness, such sadness, that he can't navigate some balance here and actually go, that was tough for me losing my mom, but actually look what opportunities I've had because of that name. You know, when I see people like you and all of my followers who some people don't get born into a royal family, and we could never relate to that. You know, we could never relate to that. However, some people get born into parents that are heavily into drugs. Some people get born and they're carers for their parents. Some people are homeless. And the majority of people have a year-long waiting list on a mental health list. They don't get a safe wiggable. And to cash in on that and frame it as support, it's just in bad taste, isn't it? And you know what, anyone who knows what it is to be in the pit of the abyss of that spiral, which we see him constantly, you know, I talk about the aftermath, I talk about abuse, but it's about connecting dots and healing yourself, because we have to find a way out. We've had no choice. We haven't got counsellors support and mental health support
You
like
don't
that,
have
and he's
entire
very
staff
lucky.
dedicated to help, because
Yes.
you know, we people say, oh, it must be hard, I can't imagine growing up in the royal family, but at the same time they're incredibly privileged. As somebody said once, they break one nail, they have like 13 doctors at their beck and call. They have a huge PR machine there to do whatever. I mean, because from my point of view, Harry does the only damage, in my very humble opinion, that Harry has is that, you know, I hate it when he uses his mother as an excuse, because Prince William also lost his mother, and he was actually much closer to Princess Diana than Harry was, you know. And I went to a couple of therapy sessions, and I remember I had this amazing psychologist, and she said to me, when you grow up or you're in an environment of extreme abuse, whether somebody's an extreme alcoholic or drug addict, you know, or whatever, you either continue perpetuating that model, because you say, hell, shit, if it happened to me, I'm going to make sure it happens to my kids, because they have to learn what I went through. Or you say to yourself, you know what? I know how bad I felt. I will never put my kid through something like that, because, you know, I know how it felt. But it is a choice. And I remember the psychologist said to me, when you're a child, you have no option, because you're a child, you're helpless, you know, and especially in certain countries. But when you're a grown up, if you know the difference between right and wrong, your true nature will show itself on what you do and your actions.
Yes.
You know, and Harry and Meghan, in my very humble opinion, have never been victimized, have grown up with a lot of privilege, both of them in different measurements. And I mean, Harry's major issue has been drugs. You know, using his mother for, say, I'm going to do drugs no matter what. So he's using an excuse. And Meghan, just to keep herself in the headlines, is calling herself a victim, which really upsets me, to tell you the truth, and it's very insulting to me.
No, I hear you. And you know what I find the saddest thing in Harry and Diana in this whole debacle? Diana was an incredible woman, and she was the people's princess. She had this touch. And it feels like with all of this, and with him remembering the bad and this negative towards Camilla, what have you, Diana's more than Charles's broken wife. You know, she'd done more than to be Charles's broken wife. She was an incredible woman, and William sort of seems to remember her for that. But then I do see little pools of Charles's coronation where there's a picture placed up of Archie touching a picture of Diana through Megan's friend, and to me that just alarm bells are going off, you know, in the gravestone and where he's wrote in his book about her crying and draped over this. To me, in the rawest of moments when Lilibet was born and they skin to skin, and she said, "You're no longer a spare and you're now a man, and for that I love you." For me, for someone who knows, I perceive it to be a certain way. So it's weird because you get frustrated. I go from frustrated to sympathy for understanding. Oh, you know, but I just feel like they need to take a bit of accountability. But at this
What
point,
did
I
you
think
do?
it's far too gone.
Yeah. What did you do after 14? I mean, you were at that shelter, and then what did you do? I mean, yeah, you rebuilt yourself, right?
Okay, so I had my son at just turned 17, so I was pregnant at 16. There's no rhyme or reason. He's you know, he's now 22, 23. He makes me proud every day, and there were times where I just thought, and I was in my own home. I moved out, and it was the saddest day of my life, packing my bags in a taxi to a B&B. I was homeless again. And I got my own place, and I was a child with a baby, you know, and it was pretty much from disaster to not disaster, not that it was a disaster. I adore my son, but there was no time to heal. It was almost like from one disaster and bad decisions, and you know, I split up with his dad, obviously, and yeah, that was. But then that was it. That was when I met my partner now, and I've been with him nearly 23 years. So, and we're married. So, and my son's the proudest. You know, he makes me so proud, and I can't believe I got him to here. You know?
But, but
And it was pretty much the same for all of my siblings. We sort of got out, and it was like, it's like, you're free, you can do what you want. The regime is gone, and then you just go a bit, you know, and you're not really with it. You're in this, like, you're still traumatized and you're in shock, I think, because your life's just been the same. Reading a room, fear, sensing a mood, watching such extreme. You know, my sister, whilst we were in that, she met someone who was just as bad as that, which resulted in a very bad assault, and in front of my sister's eyes, on someone else using a weapon. And Crown Court, we were in the front pages. I woke up the one night to an explosion in the dead of night, and I can remember just God, who's, and it was our car, and it was traumatic. It was just, I found myself at 10 years old, because our abuser, he wasn't my biological dad, he was my stepdad. And I found out that I had a granddad who adored me through my biological dad. And at 10 years old, I was searching a cemetery to find my granddad, just so I had somewhere to go at 10 years old. So, yeah, finding that good around the cemetery. So it's just domestic abuse and what it
and how
leads
is your
you to.
mom? How is your mom right now?
My mom is good. She's just doing life. It's never been really easy for her. She's happily married now. So yeah, she's good. She speaks upon it a little bit. Like I said, she's done a few TikToks with me. And you know, all my family support the aftermath, because they say if it can help one person, then you know. So
I how did you ever get any mental health assistance nowadays, especially with so many programs or anything? Is your son aware of what you've gone through?
you don't want to, he is more so now since I've been doing the aftermath. But no, not, you don't get any mental health. No, I personally think if I'm going in the refuge myself, when you leave abuse, if you were to be told, you know what, you may start to catastrophize, overthink, apologize to objects, because you do that. You're that scared. You take accountability. You're a people pleaser. These are all parts of the aftermath of coming out of abuse, because I think because of the silence of domestic violence, and it's like the shame, the guilt, it sort of weighs heavy on you because you feel like you're a burden. Yeah, so I believe there should be more. I had nothing. I had one session when we were living in the refuge where they sort of sat me and my brother in a room and told me that if you don't break the cycle, you will go on to be abused. Jessica.
You will continue always being abused because you always feel like you have to apologize for everything.
Yeah.
You think you deserve it, or you think it's normal to be that. Oh, hello's there.
She's getting some paper. The prince like, come on then.
I was looking about all of that, and for me, I know I'm going to get a lot of hatred, because I get a lot of hatred all the time saying, why are you talking about that? Or why are you talking about this? But I mean, this channel, it's about everything that I'm thinking about at the moment. And if I can help anybody, for me, my biggest message in my situation, because there were so many times that people kept telling me, why do you have to, why don't you just let it go? Just accept it and go back. I even had people telling me that he must beat me up because he loves me. Because if he didn't beat me up, he wouldn't care, right? And I'm looking at these people, and it's like people, even the authorities would tell me, just let it go. Just forget about it. And I'm like, no. And I think that's what angered them the most,
Yeah.
So, but it was a scary thing. There were times, like I won all the court cases. They still try to get a job. When you have an international worldwide red alert, you can't even have a bank account. You can't, and they knew I was innocent because, all came out, and the trial in Norway in 2020, all came out. And I mean, the things that are there, people, even my Norwegian lawyer at the beginning didn't believe me. He thought that, I was making it up because Norway would never do something like this. And it was 1,000 times worse. He said that in all his criminal career, he had never seen anything like this. Because, for example, let me give you an example. The person in charge of the Ministry of what I call injustice in Norway, on December 2013, one of the documents I finally got to see, there was a communications between her and my ex-husband, where he's angry he lost the trial under an international treaty, right? And she says to him, well, I know that you want us to prosecute her but it's hard to build a case against her because she's innocent of what you want us to accuse her of, which is exactly what they kept accusing me of. Wow. So they already knew since 2013 that everything was made up. And they still in 2014 went ahead and did that red alert on my person. I was not able to get a job. I couldn't even have a bank. You're a non-existent person. And he had access to all the headlines, worldwide. He went to Washington to say that I wasn't allowing him to see his son. And they were all lies. But there's nothing. I mean, and what I find myself is telling people, I'm telling you the truth. You have to believe me, because, it goes on for so many years that you're not believed, that your reputation is bad, that, nobody believes you because, of course, he has this high position, he has access, and people say, well, the Norwegian government wouldn't be backing him, because they have this reputation of being, whatever.
Did in any of those years you start to doubt yourself with everyone going, I know but
no fucking way. No.
No, but I love it. No, but some people
absolutely not.
And everyone coming against you.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I never doubted myself because I knew I was telling the truth.
Yeah. But this is where that depends, because some can get beaten down that much with that fight. So hats off to you, I don't know if you know, but some people, they're that good, they can convince you, especially with the support of everyone coming in against you, for you to carry on through like you did. It's incredible, you know.
Yeah, well, I had no choice. I was doing it
No.
actually because I said, if I go back to Norway, I need to clear my name first.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Walk with BC Girl. Thank you very much. I need to clear my name, and it was mostly for my son.
Yeah.
Because I wanted my son to see
Yeah.
that what is right, and you have to
Yeah.
stand up for it.
Mm-hmm.
My son and I would hug ourselves to sleep at night. My son would cry. I mean, I had reporters calling here after they'd written all these articles in favor of my ex-husband and that woman, because that's how the police referred to me, that woman. And I remember people would call here from very big newspapers and say, well, we'd like to hear, but they would talk to me very aggressively.
Wow.
You know, and then I said, you're more than welcome to talk to Henrik. Or what do you mean we can talk to him? That because I thought I had my son somewhere. And I said, please, I can leave the room. You can do whatever
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah.
Please come and take a look at the papers. That everything, come and look at the documentation, look at everything. And I remember the only thing I got once was somebody from a newspaper, a Norwegian newspaper, the biggest one called Aftenposten. And the guy wrote back to me. I have that email. And he said, after we talked to him and he saw all the documents, he talked to his editor. And then he came back to me in an email, said, Ms. Matanovich, I wish we could do more. We're not going to print any more stories about this case, but my editor has told me that we're not going to print your story, your version of events, because it would look bad on the Norwegian government.
Wow. See what
And
you
that's when
face.
my son, my 12-year-old son, crying, told him, please do publish, at least publish it was for me. That's what drove me, my son crying. It drove me, my son watching. I still get angry about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't care what they did to me, but it was my son.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
No, well, your children, that's where that's where Mama Bear comes in, isn't it? And
Yeah.
that's what forces you to fight no matter what. And I can't even imagine having that much force against you, because we felt let down every time the police sort of just walked away, or, the one time, I was at school. This was my safe place where I didn't have to fear.
Yeah.
But then someone came in and was like, so there was a time where obviously my sister's, where it got severe, where it ended up in Crown Court, and my niece was kidnapped. And someone walked past me and they were like, there's a baby being held hostage, so-and-so. And I was like, I just knew, because we had all the explosions, all the stalking on top of the domestic violence. And I sort of went to the head of year's office and I sort of just looked at him and I was like, I need to ring home. Anyway, I rang home and I knew anyway, but the school just let me go. Do you know what I mean? The school just let me walk out. There was no protection, no safety, no validation that this is wrong. And I've totally gone off in a tangent there. I don't actually know.
No, please, you're here to
but
you
yeah,
can talk about
when
anything
you've not
here.
heard,
We're all to listen for, please talk.
but when you've not got that, when you're not heard, and for you it must have been, and I can understand your anger, like even to this day, to not have had that validation, that justice
Yeah, that's the thing. Justice.
yeah
I really do. It's not revenge. Because
yeah
many people say to me, why are you exposing your ex-husband? Do you want him to lose his job? Actually, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has not fired him. They've promoted him. He's traveling all over the world while I'm still struggling to support my son, putting him through university because his father is not doing it.
yeah
And people don't understand that. I am the one who has been supporting my son through all of this.
yeah
And
whilst facing all of this as well. It's shocking. And you know what, for all my followers, there are story after story. They all mirror image, or and no matter what, everyone faces their own spectrum of trauma, feelings, anger, sadness, and you get stuck in a circle. you know? And this is what I think, like you said, Harry's trauma of losing his mom growing up in the royal family. But you see that he was happy and healing and a healthy, smiley Harry. So whatever was happening, he was in a better place for it. You know, he had that trauma still, but he was in a better place. Since, from what I perceive, Meghan's come onto the scene, it's been a spiral back into the past, and that's not healthy, you know. And I will never take anyone's trauma away from them because of what I faced, but this isn't the way. As we can see, evidently, it's not brought any good to his life, just bad. And as a wife looking on, would I let my husband sit on a sofa with a ball if he was in such a bad state? No. You know. And yeah.
Ask you something because I thought some things myself, but do you think that Harry was truly traumatized and dealt with it? Or do you think that after meeting Meghan, they both figured they're going to exploit this and create a bigger trauma than he has?
Um I there's no doubt that Harry had struggled with all of this. You know, even before he met Meghan, you could see him Las Vegas, and he was always the Harry that was a bit rebellious, and you know. But did anyone expect to see this? Is what he's done? Does it fit the crime of what's supposed to have happened? You know, I just feel like it's just, have they chosen to exploit it? I perceive that one has, and the other one stupidly. I don't know. It's hard, isn't it? All we can see is the comparisons between a healthy relationship in William and Catherine and how she supported him, and they embrace each other's families. If we hadn't have seen Meghan's father sort of chucked to the curb the minute why wasn't he in England? Why wasn't he like measuring up for suit? He was never going to be at that wedding. He was never going to be at that wedding. In my opinion, he was never going to be.
That's a given. He was never invited. You know, that I don't know why people keep saying that he was invited. He was never invited.
And I think as well, for me, like you said, it's anger, because when you see Thomas Markle filming every prom and every occasion and be that supporting dad, and when you hear despair about how Charles used to come and sit at the end of Harry's bed, like, those two were blessed to have that. You know, there are so many that don't want their dad to sit at their, like, it's crazy that I feel like, obviously Harry is the prince, and I feel like, my opinion, she was the princess of that family anyway. You know, if anything, I would say when Meghan come along, it was the brother and sister, Samantha and Thomas Jr., who were probably kicked to the curb, because, you know, a new relationship, you see Meghan was the apple of his eye, and you see all this footage with Meghan and a new relationship, a new daughter. And I think, if anything, the other two probably were just sort of, you know, as he pursued that. We know how it works, you know, in 9 times out of 10, that's how I perceive it to be. If anyone should be probably a bit put out. But that's just my opinion, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if we go and compare to how he was prior to meeting Meghan, he was actually happy-go-lucky, living his best life. You know, but then we have his 2 ex-girlfriends who broke up with him because they said that he wasn't a very nice person. You know, so, and we know that Buckingham Palace did a banging job about selling an image of Harry that never existed, because now all the stories are coming out of how rude and nasty he really was. You know, because I don't know, and the way he treated, because, you know, his grandmother, the queen, the late queen, really took after him. His grandfather was dying, who adored him. I mean, from stories that I've heard from people who were around, he was allowed to get away with so many things because of everything, you know, and the queen he was. So the way he treated his grandmother, his dying grandfather, The way he treated his brother, who's always been there for him, even Catherine, everybody, it I don't think Megan has that reach. That is something in him, and it because listen, a lot of the beatings I got was because I wouldn't stop seeing my friends or family or anything like that. In this situation, Harry has the upper hand because he's the royal prince, and we've seen him behave in ways when he wants to,
Mm-hmm.
that are not very nice because he loves the attention too.
Mm-hmm.
You
He
know,
does.
he's not very bright, but he's grown accustomed to whatever Harry wants, Harry gets.
Mm-hmm.
You
But
know, he
that's changed. But that's changed to whatever Megan wants, Megan gets, hasn't it?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But how do you feel about those children that they claim to have?
To be honest with you, the children I don't really talk upon because I just feel like it's too out there to think that they don't exist.
No, no,
I
no, no, no.
feel,
I know that they exist.
yeah,
My
yeah.
channel
I
never
feel
talks about
like
nonsense.
if
They exist. I don't know whether Megan had them, but they exist.
I'd like to see who's got them as
No, I mean, I
their,
don't know whether she gave birth to them
yeah,
because
no,
even the narcissism of this woman, had she given birth to them, she would be branding those birth certificates and those,
yeah.
like in gold embossed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the
They
kind
would
of
still,
woman she is.
they'd seep out somewhere, wouldn't they? You know, um, I,
How do you think those children
I
will
feel
grow
like
with those two?
the minute that if they were to split up, the minute they were to split up, those children would be everywhere in every magazine going. I think she would be out there with the children. I think he probably knows that. It's hard to know at this point what is going on in their Montecito home. I can't see how any human marriage could cope under the pressure that they are under, unless they are both the narcissists they're portraying. I just don't see how any family could be a happy family. They've got this big massive house and no one to sit at the table with them at Christmas.
But
No one.
that's of their own doing, though, Tina. It's like claiming to be a victim of your own actions. It's
Yes.
like it's
Yes.
their own doing. I mean,
Yeah.
you cannot expect to trust your family at their worst when their
No.
grandmother is
No.
dying. Go on Oprah Winfrey and
Mhm.
blatantly lie
Yeah.
to the world, create diplomatic tensions, create world hatred towards the monarchy,
And it
increase
really has
the
been
risk
that. It
level
really
to
has.
the remaining royals. Because when
Everyone's like,
yeah,
what's going on?
yeah,
No one ever believed that they would watch this roll out. And I think that's been the shock factor. I think from
I
living in
did.
the UK,
I did.
did
I
you?
called it out very early. If you watch my early videos, I started
Mm-hmm.
talking that Harry and Meghan, because I had inside info. I'm not gonna lie. So I said, if you look at my earliest videos, they're gonna go to Netflix. They're gonna do an interview. Harry's gonna write a book. All of that, I said it in my early videos, even
Mm-hmm.
before Meghan left. This is why my Twitter account at the time was canceled, because I said this woman is heading to California. This is even way before that. She's
Mm-hmm.
she's talking to Oprah. She's gonna do it. They're gonna do an interview, and people call me crazy, racist, all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't want to see it because they didn't. My very humble opinion, they were covering up all of Meghan Markle's lies, and the royal family. It's like a full-time job from Buckingham Palace PR, just trying to keep the press quiet of all of Meghan Markle's lies.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that Harry betrayed his dying father, his grandmother, I mean, that Netflix, I was livid. I
Yeah.
was livid when they portrayed the Queen's Commonwealth Trust as colonialism 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
Queen's work.
I think as well, then to come out to Tom Bradbury and sort of say no, we didn't say that. I I don't think people of the UK realise just how much the royal family had ingrained themselves in us until the moment that Harry and Meghan came out and did what they did. But when you look back, Like, I done a post about EastEnders. Now, that's a soap. The soap we all watch. The car crash TV. The car crash TV that we all sit down on Christmas Day to watch this disastrous event while we're all sat in our safe homes with our families. Because we can partake in that. That's easy. You know, we know it's not us. It's not real.
Yeah.
But every Christmas Day after that, we sit and watch the Queen's speech. She is in our homes every Christmas Day.
In Canada, too.
But what we watched here is car crash TV, real time, real lives, watching the woman that spent Christmas Day in that speech with us, real time, being affected and hurt by those lies. And that, but then there's that element, but then you've got the family element. Would you do that to your nan, your mom? Would you do that? No, and 99 point would not. And people are like, what, how in the curtsy, who would let that? And you could see in his face that was the moment he knew it's done, you know.
Let me show your channel, a clip of your channel, because I want people to see this about you. So because they've been asking what your channel, I hope you go subscribe to her, but I want to show them a little bit of her YouTube channel and we can discuss a little bit. I've learned to do some, what do you say?
Do you know what? I'm so bad with technology.
Yeah, me too. I mean, but I've learned a little bit here. So I'm just because I want you guys to take a look at this and you'll see what I'm talking about. Just wait. No, it's is this monologue that you did here that I'm going to show. I think my opinion channel is it it's called Harry and Meghan. Is that it? Let me see if that's the one. Wait, I'll get it and you tell me what if this is the one, okay? Okay.
If Harry was a princess, the world would see it completely different. If Harry was a princess and a man had come along and isolated, segregated, done all that we've watched in front of our eyes, the world would see it completely different. It would be save our princess from this manipulation, this bad person, which got me thinking. Frozen. Now bear with me, but the stories are quite similar and the same, apart from the turning people to ice and the magic and that, you know, two princesses in a palace, the whole being that one has a pressure so great on her shoulders to be queen one day, the other one, the one there to support, the sister, so passionate, so free, able to believe in the magic, the happy that ends in this fantasy life, because she's more free. And upon the day of the palace gates opening, she's out there on full display, excitable, passionate. Her fairy tale, Hans, arrives on the scene, jumping in feet first, without a care. For she can do what she wants and be what she wants. She hasn't got the pressure to one day be queen. Her sister, Elsa, slow down. Anna, you don't even know this person. But no, I can do what I want. This is my fairy tale dream. No one can stop me. But Elsa can't live the same. She can't be that same person as Anna. Just to simply be free in her mind, in her head, the pressure so great for one day be queen. And where did that all end? Anna, Hans, a bad man coming into her life to use and abuse without a care for who she was or what she was, just to use her to simply take what he needed. Slowly turning stone. In him leaving her out in the cold, not there to save her, just to watch her fall. And in that movie, obviously, who is there to save her? Her sister Elsa, the one who loved her. And I know this is all cheesy in referencing to Frozen, but think about that movie and the connections, the relations, the reality. The pressure so great on William's shoulders to be king, unable to be free in that way, like Elsa. Anna, this passionate, I can do what I want, I can be free, because the pressure isn't that big on her shoulders in the same way. But ultimately, the end of the movie, Elsa saves the day. And I wonder if it'd be the same in this story, in this way. But I do know one thing. If Harry was a princess and a man had come her way, and we watched all roll out in this kind of way, the world, like we did with Frozen, would look at hands in that way.
I mean, and I mean, you guys, you really have to see her TikToks because I love them. They are so spot on. I get goosebumps every time I listen to you talk, because it is such a beautiful page that you have. You know, I'm not just talking about Harry and Meghan, but you also talk about other stuff as well. You know, like your personal experiences, and what I take mostly from your channel is that, like you, I didn't know what to do. Nobody to turn to, you know. It's like I have to deal this on my own. um you didn't have that too when you were up until the age of 14, until you left home, you know. It's quite a scary thought to think that way. Do you know what I mean?
I look at my daughter and my children now, you know, and I couldn't even imagine them going or even facing a little bit of what, you know, I faced or other children face. And that's why they're lucky. And I know Harry had that grief, but he hasn't got a clue what some people face and what some people see, in how unloved some people feel. And that's why, you know, the injustice, like you said, and the truth, like it's hard, like for you as well, and you seek justice and accountability in others, because we never got that accountability, and accountability means so much, you know. And as for me rambling on and talking about Frozen, that's the way I've spent most of my life, trying to find comparisons, and that's how I found this voice since TikTok. I didn't even know I could write like this, and I'm enjoying writing, and that's because having validation from people following me and hearing me. And this is having the conversation about domestic violence. And I want that to grow. I want other victims and survivors to no longer just survive, but to thrive, because they deserve that. So, yeah, and just like yourself, you know, it's you can't get back those 10 years, but look what you've done in those 10 years for your son. And that you know, even if, you know, I think my therapist, I did go for therapy later on in life once I kept crashing, because it got to the point where I knew every time I crashed I was going deeper and deeper, and it scared me. And I remember to the point I was going to pick up my children from school, and it was like a really dark, dreary like day, but it was like winter and there's no leaves on the trees, and I looked up and I found beauty in that moment. And I got so angry because I was like, why can I get beat like everywhere else? I'm just numb. And I went to the doctors and they got me therapy at, I think I was 34. And they sort of said to me, if he was here in front of you, what would you say to him? Like, what would you say to him? And the realization that I wouldn't want him to know. I wouldn't want to give him any, and you know, it was sort of like that. In the connection of the dot for me, my first connection of a dot. Now, every time my son used to go to my mom's to babysit, well, firstly, I had to deal with the catastrophizing. What if something happens to him? What if there's an explosion in the night? What if, you know, the worst visuals in my head, which used to make me feel sick, in my head, because what sort of mom is thinking that way? I tell you what, it's the sort of mom that grew up that way. It's the sort of mom that grew up to explosions in the night and real fear in her life. So this is always a possibility, my mind used to tell me. And I always used to pack him like a suitcase for every eventuality. And it was the therapist who sort of said, and so when you went in the refuge, you never had any clothes, you weren't prepared. And it was like, wow, all that time I've beat myself up. And then I started to piece the connections to my triggers, so I understood them. So I would still feel it, I would still go there, but understanding it helps bring you out of it quicker, in placing your trauma, your PTSD, once you understand it, away from your heart, so you can navigate fresh and forward rather than slipping into that, and living in that.
And how are you feeling today? Now these days, how do you feel you're doing?
Yeah, really good. I have, and this is the thing, I think when you've been through abuse, you will always be a very sensitive, emotional, angry. We're very reactive because all those times you went through that with your partner, your husband, you go into survival. Your thinking brain gets shut down, so it's just your memory center which you rely on. So when you think at that time, you've not got no rational thinking, it's just your emotions that are connected to that, and your anger. I'm really good, and I'm happily married. I've got my children. I've got the aftermath. I've got so many wonderful people. And I just want to say, whilst I'm on here, because they only see the videos that I put up, and I just want to say to you all, if you have joined it in, thank you for your support. And I just want the aftermath to grow. And I've never believed in anything like I do this. And it's by seeing people. But, the reality is I've had followers come to me through the Harry and Meghan content because they're triggered by it, but have found solace in the aftermath. And there are a lot of people that have been through that are relating to what we see roll out in front of us,
Yeah. It is actually, I mean, the things, how you put them out. I mean, there is one monologue that I want to show you just a little clip, guys. So because I do love how you voice things in a way that I can't. I get angry. I get angry. I haven't processed my anger. So I get angry rather quickly. And it's just like, why are they doing that? What angers me the most is that they claim to be victims when they don't know what that is. They don't know what surviving something is.
No.
They really don't know what surviving something bad is. I mean, Harry, his mother died in a car accident, and he grieved, but you know what I mean? Grieving the loss of somebody is different than you going through something horrific. There's two separate things. It doesn't mean that, of course, it's not a trauma, but it's different. He's not a victim. He doesn't have to survive that. He has to get over it, grieve it, go through healthy processes and stuff like that. But let me see that just 1 second here, because I do love your thing. Your here. Let me see. I think it's this one. Let me see if it's this one.
You know what? I get asked a lot, why do you speak about Harry and Meghan? But people really need to understand, when you've been through trauma, abuse, you have a different language. You have a different understanding of scenario situations in front of you. Sometimes it's shit. I wish I didn't see the bits I see and pick up on body language, actions, like I did. Because when I see it, feel it, because I can connect to it because of my own experiences. My platform is the aftermath. It's about survivors coming together, healing, moving forward, no longer being that victim to your own mind from someone else's damage and pain that they put on you. It's about taking control and moving away. But we can't fix the language that was laid in us, one for protection, one to help us, one that is connected to our emotions. So when we see a trial like Johnny Depp Amber Heard, naturally people who've been through domestic violence are going to feel kind of way, and the majority lined up with Johnny Depp because we related, we understood, we got it but we didn't just watch it and understand, we felt it, because that was us once upon a time. But also, I've said it before, we could have done it blindfolded or muffled up and watched that court case vice versa and still come up with the same outcome, because we have to protect ourselves for so long in that regime, look upon and read a room, not just a smile or words. We take in the whole, but not just here. Our body is built in to react. So we get passionate, especially for injustice, because we know what it is to feel that injustice. We know what it is to feel wronged. We know what it is to be that person who is being lied about. And we want to defend and stand for truth. That's the reality. So most people in this community have come from broken families, let down upon people. Some have been able to move on with those family members that have let them down, because there's always a way. Some have to cut them off. Toxic, get out the way. I can't have that in my life. But when people look upon this whole situation with Harry and Meghan and they take it in and they're reading actions, behaviours, when you witness the isolation, the segregation, red flag. When you witness no one at the wedding, red flag. When you witness and listen to his words about he's told in the most vulnerable moments of just having Lilibet, his daughter, that you are now a man and no longer a spare. For that, I love you. We don't hear that. What we hear is he is vulnerable in that moment, and she is telling him, you don't need to go back to those people right now. They treated you as a spare, but I love you. When we hear her throwing herself at his mom's grave, his most vulnerable place to be, and making it about her, and setting that in place, this connection to his mom, all over her face, alarm bells go off. When we see on Charles's coronation, the moment where he could have caved and tried to fix and mend this broken way, there's pictures of Archie for his 4th birthday, but they're not a 4th birthday. It's him when he's a baby, touching a picture of his mom, his most insecure moments. It's this whole body language and behaviours that we know and understand. And that's a fact. But we don't just see it, we feel it too. And this works against us because it's hard to watch. It really is. And chucking in 2 dads that adored their children, who tried their best, and they haven't done so wrong compared to us. We look upon and we're like, how? How can you, when you've been so blessed? This is exactly what we see, but we don't just see it, we feel it. There's never any now in Harry and Meghan's life. It's always the past, in that ditch that we know so well, that ditch of pity, going over and over the pain, the hate. It's not a good place to be. We see him being placed in that, from actions of throwing on the grave and pictures of his son. Why is it not now? Why is it not freedom? Why is it not happiness? Why are we going back and living in the past? Why is it not about the future and the now? Because we know only too well, once you get in that ditch of pain and hurt, you go on self-destruct, to spiral. And as his wife, like we've seen in Catherine, she's came along and gave William the love and the time and the support in order for him to be the best person he can. And we've not seen that in Meghan. We've seen the rest.
I mean, I love it. You know, like I love how you speak. I mean, you're very compassionate. I mean, it really touches a chord with me Not because you're talking about Harry and Meghan, because it could be about anybody, but it's just that we had that dynamic playing out so publicly.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I suppose I just want to convey the feelings of what people are feeling and watching it all. You know, in general, you know, there is a reality in everything that, especially if you've been through abuse, but even the people that have not been through abuse are picking up on a lot of that too, aren't they? You know, it's there is a character change, and you know, I'm no doubt that he is there is entitlement there is a privilege where he's used to having everything. And no doubt William, and we've seen Charles, can have his moments of getting they live in a lifestyle in opulence that no one could understand unless you're royalty. However, what they've done, and like you said to our queen, you can't. It's another level. It's another stratosphere, you know, to what humans do, you know. And the one thing we all have, you can have as much money, houses, wealth. The one thing you have got, and if you've got a good one, family, which we see relationships with his family, his cousin Zara, we see him have good relations with Catherine, incredible smiles on his face.
Well, the other his two ex-girlfriends had very good relationships. Chelsea, I mean, they got on great.
Yeah.
The bonus, it was even part of the, you know, I mean, they got along great.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And again, but you know, like I've always said that a person who's abusive, they always start small to see how much they can, you know, that they can get away. Push you a little bit here. Oh, she didn't react. Push harder. Then there comes the first blow, the second blow. It's something like that. However, it is my firm belief that the royal family has enabled Meghan's behavior because she has had no consequences to that.
No, I know.
Nobody calling the police on her. You know, like one of the things, because I work for different international organizations, especially when it comes to children. Major flags for any form of abuse is isolation. It's like you know, you get vague explanations as to why things are not happening or happening. Too many words without any real substance to it. Lacking specifics. This is the thing. Extreme over explanation of simple things, isolating individuals or children to get their stories to match, because you need to isolate them, condition them. You know, and I've said this many times in my channel. I don't know if you've ever been robbed out in the street. I have. And they go, the first thing they tell you is, shh, quiet. They don't want you to draw attention to the wrongdoing that's happening.
Yeah.
You know, which is the first thing now that any law enforcement or anybody will tell you, scream, you know. Yeah. But this is the thing with Meghan, what she's doing to those children, you know, and she's basically depriving those children of having relationships with extended members of the family, because having a relationship with extended members of the family can be a lifeline for children who find themselves in abusive situations, and a lot of times come from the parents. So if you're a cousin or a brother or an aunt or uncle who visits them a lot, and you see that the child is not behaving in the usual manner, you're able to red flag that. But if the child has nobody,
well, there's no one on the in, is there? No. And it's grandparent alienation as well, isn't it? You know, and so many can relate to that. There are so many instances, because it's family and because it's being placed out on the main stage in the way it is, there's so many people that can relate from different angles, you know, from the grandparents who don't get to see their grandkids, you know, and like you say, there's no one in there to sort of monitor or protect, you know, from what we know. In either way, it's just not, majority can say, unless that it's not healthy. It don't seem to be very healthy. It seems very toxic. And this is why I don't think any marriage can work like this. There's only so long you can keep up and if they are really happy in that marriage, then good luck to them, because that's not healthy either at this point. Because if they're really happy and they're oblivious to all of this, that red alarm bells, isn't it? You know, because who's happy with this? Who could be happy in this, you know? But yeah, what we see, and do you know what, actually, Amber Heard, Meghan Markle, I did put a post. I did do a post the other day, and I didn't put it up. And in my opinion, you know, we watched Amber Heard. We watched this woman on the main stage lying, taking abuse, and playing with it like she did. But you got the vibe that she knew what she was doing.
Oh yeah.
She got caught out and she was going for it, and she would never come out and admit now, but she knew what she was doing. With Meghan, you have this smile. And yeah, she knows, but she seems, in my opinion, more concerning than AH did, you know, because it's just odd. It's odd, in my opinion, you know. It's not fit into a normal human reactions or behaviors, you know. And whether because she's awkward and she's trying to overcompensate, but actually you just need to just stop at this point and acknowledge and read the room, the statistics that are out there. This ain't going your way, and no PR management can turn this around at this point, I don't believe. But I'm not an expert. I'm just someone who went for abuse who's got a gob on me.
No, but I mean, in a way, you know, that the way when we grow up, we learn right from wrong because we are held accountable. There are consequences to our actions, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, how can Meghan Markle think that she's doing anything wrong if, first of all, she's never held accountable for anything? And on top of that, she gets rewarded for more stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so this is the point that I'm making. Like, for example, the king can say, you're not going to use the royal titles at all because, you know, you're in America. You can only use the royal titles when you carry out your duties in the United Kingdom, which will be never. You'll be removed from the royal website because, you know, you're no longer working royals. Your children are not going to be in the line of succession because you chose to completely leave, you know. All the lies she has told. I mean, I did a video yesterday about Nigeria, or was it today? I can't remember. About Nigeria and her roots, how she claims she was from Malta, how she hired this genealogist and flew all the way to Malta, how she got married in Jamaica because of her mother's Jamaican roots. And her father is Irish, Scottish, you know. And now she's claiming she's 43% from a tribe in Nigeria. We don't know which one because everything is very vague, from another genealogist. And she went to Invictus Games, and they still allowed her to pose with the Nigerian team and call her our Nigerian princess when everybody knows full well it's a lie. So how can she? And in that sense, I do forgive her because everybody is catering to her lies.
And I think this is what spurs the people on, and this is why, like you said, people say, "Oh, let it go." This is why the people are not letting go. And I think for the Queen and Philip, and watching them have to face that in their last days, and the Queen's 7+ year reign, this is where I feel like Harry and Meghan, where they try to, you can't, in my opinion, to bring the royal family down, they propelled them. It made people connect to them in a way. And this is where I feel like the monarchy could possibly go into dangerous waters if this carries on. If she brings out a book and this carries on, then people they will fall too, because at some point they're going to have to deal with it. And as much as the silence has been golden, are we going to let them just carry on doing this? This makes you.
Silence is golden in certain circumstances for diplomacy, but in this case, silence is compliance too.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, especially when this is not a family matter, because the king is a monarch who represents everybody as the Commonwealth in the United Kingdom. You know, this is not about family. These are people who are not doing these actions using their Christian names or using their royal titles.
Yes, and
And
then
then the
they
royal
smashed and
website,
grabbed the
the royal
titles.
website, it says that they're members of the royal family who help the king carry out his duties still to this day.
I know.
You
I
know,
know.
so it's not Rachel Meghan Markle who wrote to Congress to lobby. It was the Duchess of Sussex from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Office of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. So this would be like a senator from the United States writing a letter to Parliament telling them you have to amend your policies here. That's unheard of.
No, I understand. And I think this is where it's going to go into dangerous waters, where the king is going to, you know, I know the Queen always used to sort of say to herself, it's widely known, what would the Queen do? And I feel like Charles needs to say, what would the king do? Rather than what would the dad do, you know, in this situation, because they have got a role and they have got a responsibility to, and all this almost sort of, I see a letter someone had wrote to him actually sort of saying this is like war, although it's not like you've got that much bad feeling going, you have a, you know, to lesson should be learned when young to bad favor. I mean, huge problem. Yeah. So I do feel like Charles, it's getting a bit tiring now. People want to see something done with them too, you know.
You know, and I don't know about you. In my case, I felt helpless to do anything about my situation because I knew the police was never going to help me. So I was waiting for my son to turn 18 to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
You know, because I felt I was worried too. If I defend myself, I'm going to kill this bastard and they're going to put me in jail because I had already gone to the police, you know, old broken up, old battered up, and instead they were chastising me. So my fear wasn't that I was scared of him. My fear is that if I defend myself and I kill this guy, I will be put in jail, no matter how self-defense it was, because that's the kind of thing I experienced. Other people are truly scared, you know, and they just comply with it, or they're worried what the person is going to do, that the violence is going to escalate, you know. And but in Meghan's case and Harry's case, there has been, nobody's thinking of the children and the consequences that the people who have the power to hold them accountable and they're not doing so is going to affect how this is going to affect these children, because these children are going to grow up and they're going to read everything. The internet is forever, no matter how much Harry and Meghan want to censor it. But you know, and the environment, the isolation of those children.
Absolutely.
I mean, nobody's thinking about them. You know, everybody's thinking, oh, poor Harry. And I mean, like, screw that. Harry is an almost 40-year-old man, entitled, who's had all his life, traveled everywhere, gotten what he wanted. And Meghan the same. And I'm thinking, they're not providing a safe and healthy environment for children, those children to grow up in, completely isolated from everybody else and their families. And people who are abusive do that on purpose.
Yeah.
And you know that. I mean, I don't know about you.
Yeah. You know, within a year of my mom meeting, we used to live close to my aunties and stuff. We were moved away. So
did you ever feel? I mean, the question that you asked me, did you ever doubt yourself? Did you ever doubt yourself? Did you ever think that it was normal? Did you ever think of running away from your mother, leaving your mother or your family? Did you?
I did go through a rebellious stage. I did run away. The police would come and get me and take me back. So, you know, there was no validation. I remember in my form at school, and Mr. Osborne was my tutor, and I remember just sort of opening up to him, and he sort of just, off you go, it's lunchtime now.
Did you tell anybody know what was happening?
They knew. People knew. I remember going to sleep at my friend's house. I did go and sleep at my friend's house, and she was like, before he moved us away, she lived around the corner. So I used to go and sleep there from time to time. I used to think it was the best thing ever. Going to this, it was like respite, really. I remember the one night that the mom was taking me back, and the mom was a nurse, and she used to work around the club. She was dropping me back off, and we sort of got to the end of our street, and there were police cars just everywhere. And I just knew, and instantly in that moment, what I used to do was transfer my worry to her, because I could see in her face, she knew what she was taking me back to. You know, she knew how we lived. And yeah, I think in those moments, your worry, so you just go to someone else. And I suppose there are elements where I can't relate to Harry and his trauma, because I think in these moments I could never do what he's done, because I wouldn't be able to live with, you know, I would, it would consume me, that guilt I would carry. But in those moments, I didn't worry about me so much. It was the people around me, because of that shame and that worry for them and what they're going to do with me now and how they feel about that. So that's why I'm heavily, you know, I speak the way I do, I suppose, because I've always just been in tune to feelings and reading a room and emotions and understanding. You know, I've never seen myself as intelligent at all. And a lot, you know,
Goodness, I gotta tell you, you are absolutely wrong. I mean, I really do listen to your TikToks a lot. You know, especially when I'm feeling down, because there are days that, especially recently, I've had really rough days, and I listen to your channel, and it kind of brings me back. I don't know how to explain it, because you're very, you know how to express your emotions very beautifully. You know, you're very articulate, and your voice is incredible. I think you should do hypnosis or something like that, because you know you have something, and I mean, and the way you speak about it, um, it, to me, I can see that it's real, because you know you can't fake that. There's people try to pretend they're victims, like Meghan Markle is always on the floor. You know, it's just it's just this past year and a half, I've become like a crybaby, which I hate. You know, I don't know, it's because I haven't dealt with anything, and for so many years I never cried, because I didn't want my son to see me cry, and you know, and I was completely on my own. And now, you know, especially I run a school. I have a little school that I got some kids and stuff like that, and their stories just break me. And now, to the point that, you know, now I go and I try to do as much as I can. But when bad things happen, I get really emotional. I get angry. I don't know if it's anger that I have pent up. I get angry not at the kids. I get angry at the people hurting the kids. And I wish I could do something, you know? So, but I listen to you. You're incredibly intelligent. You're very empathetic and sympathetic. Um, and yeah, I mean, you have a lot of wisdom, which is, I was so glad you came here, and I hope we can do more lives and stuff like that. But did you ever feel the point that I want to actually really ask you, because you were so young, um, people knew, that makes it worse. People knew, and they're not doing anything. It's just like right now with Harry and Meghan Markle. People know, but they're not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Do you feel angry towards the people that they saw what's happening and they didn't help you?
I think I perceived it as shame, you know, just
Well,
embarrassment.
why were you ashamed? Why did you feel ashamed yourself?
Because we're just ashamed of that family again, you know, that's how it was, you know. I remember the one time so the one time it was going off, and this is what got me with Amber Heard, with the stepped on a bee, because yes, you do remember stuff with such, but at the same time, it's hard to explain. So I got caught. It was going off. My sister and brother had left. They were like out of there as soon as they could. And I remember the one time I got home from school, and they were like, "Sister's moving out," and I was like, for a second, I had that, wow, my own bedroom. Then it quickly dawned on me, shit, It's down to me. When it goes off, I've got to protect my little brother. The baton's been handed down. It's down to me. And I remember it going off for the first time after that, which I've been dreading anyway. And this is no matter what good we had, that snippet, the bad just came. And this is what you go on in the aftermath. You can't enjoy the good because you're waiting for the bad, because that's the regime of your life. This is where
You've been
it
conditioned to expect something
Yeah.
better,
Yes. And this is the aftermath. And this is what, and it was going off. And he liked to sort of display, a bit like the fire on the lawn. He liked to display her in front of our face and what he was doing to us. He called to the top of the stairs and it was crying, she was screaming, and he pinned her up at the top of the stairs, the bottom of the coat peg. And I remember the light beaming down on her face, and I remember the light beaming down her face, and he was like, look what you've done to her. Like, her shirt had been ripped off, she was in a crop top, she couldn't wear a bra, and he dragged her back into the living room, and it was going off. And I had a decision, like, the phone was at the bottom of the stairs. Like, do I go and ring the police? But what if he comes and catches me? My brother's crying. I've got he is my responsibility now. I've got to protect him. So I'm trying to say to him, but I must have, it felt like I was there for about an hour. My legs were just, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go. Because I had the front door at the bottom of the stairs. And I was like, my mate lives next door, but when I run around to her, I get help. But what if he catches me? And honest to God, my legs were froze. I was stuck. And I was like counting over and over again in my head, go. But before I know it, I went and I was gone, ran out the front door, up the gate. And I was trying to open the gate and I couldn't get it open. And just the adrenaline you feel, and I ran to my mates and rang the police, and it was just, and I remember the police come and Mom, they'd sorted it out, and Mom, she had sort of, is what it is. And just that walk back in seeing the neighbours, sort of the curtains going, you just sort of, you just lose you just give up, and you just feel like it's you're the one, it's your fault, and it's your family, and you're just in survival. So I don't think you feel anything but all the bad, the negative, the guilt, the trauma, the shame, the blame. Just, you're responsible for everyone. And this was all before I was 14. So I don't think there's any, it's just all the negative you absorb, of how everyone looks and judges you. And I think when I was older, before I went to therapy, I was out in town and someone went past me when I was really bad, and I thought they were gonna hurt me because the catastrophizing got really bad. This is when I went and got therapy. And I thought, and where I thought they were going to place something into me, which was all in my head, I felt that same adrenaline rush around my body of where it was going in my, as I did when I was running up and trying to open that gate, because I felt him grabbing me, even though it weren't. And this is the connections, the connections are really strong. And I think we spend all our time like you, where you're so angry when you think about it. But little by little, if you just connect the dots, little by little, in a safe way, it helps you deal with it piece by piece rather than all together.
I want to say something to all of you. I've seen some of you sharing your stories that you also went through a lot of abuse, or you grew up with an abusive parent. I'm very happy that you're sharing this. I want you to know that I know that I started this channel about Meghan Markle and stuff like that, but my aim was always to be able to jump into topics that I really wanted to talk about. And this is, my platform is very small, but for anybody who's going through stuff like this is your platform. Anybody wants to come here and share their stories, this is a platform for you. I'm very happy to lend it for you to use it. I wish I had somebody to do that for me, just like you. Probably you wish probably somebody would have that we know what you're going through, or call somebody, or have a safe haven to go to, And hopefully, you know, Tina is going to come back. I was thinking of maybe doing it once a week to bring cases. If you have people who reach out to you who need to speak out, they don't have to show their faces, you know, because there you can show your face and you can put any name and they can talk about it. But I mean, what advice would you give to these people? I mean, first of all, it is normal to feel ashamed, but it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing that I love about the aftermath is in this platform, my platform, is not only do I have survivors come in and share in the comments, but then I have other ones big sort of validate them, and there are full-on conversations going on. I had one only today which sort of said, I'm one of your silent watchers, and I know they're out there, you know. And like I said, I said to you today, you know, no matter what, there are so many elements to the aftermath of domestic violence, whether it's you can't speak up or you are an oversharer, because some of us are, because I do overshare. I used to overshare, then go and absolutely annihilate myself after.
But
Like,
that's
why have you
normal.
shared
When you
that?
first get out, it's like you want to talk about everybody. You know, for me, I'm still embarrassed about it because I always thought of myself very strong, and my biggest shame is that I feel that I should have protected my son better.
Do you know what though? One thing I find is the real victims who have been through it so bad, the last thing they want to be is a victim.
Yeah, I'm not a victim. I that's, you know, I don't.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. You fight against it because that makes you feel weak. It makes you feel vulnerable.
Yes.
And it puts
You
all
know,
the
I remember the first time somebody called me that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was the last time the police came to the house. And I remember I was blaming myself because they put Alf in one room, my very young son in a separate room, and me in another room. And the police guy, who was very gentle, he came in, and I remember my heart pounding, because these were different policemen. They were not from the area because it was Easter. So the regular policemen that were friends of my ex-husband didn't come. It was police from Oslo. So they were completely different people. So they were actually kind. And the guy, I started saying to him, it is all my fault. This happened because of me. This is all my fault. He, you know, and I remember he said to me, not to me, he was talking on the radio, you know, to the police. And then he said, I'm talking to the victim. And I'm like, who the fuck is he talking? Referring to as a victim. I'm not a victim. I actually have a very bad temper, you know, and I just couldn't defend myself properly in Norway because I was afraid I would go to jail if I did.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But I was shocked when he called me a victim because he's like, is he talking about me? You know, it's like, but then he said to me, ma'am, you don't think so, but you know, because they check your body, you know, and stuff like that for marks and stuff, and then but you're being victimized. Even if you don't want to be considered a victim, you are being victimized. You know, it's nothing wrong with that. He said, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I don't even call myself a survivor. I just think I went through that shit and now I want justice. That's really
you know what? A lot of people are like that, but there are some people that, and that's what annoys me with these people like Amber Heard, Meghan Markle, and they're using this victimhood on a main stage, in my opinion, and the people that are on the floor who have got no support. And I feel like they're setting the bar. That's being a victim on the main stage. Okay, that's the level we're at, are we? Because actually there are so many people that really see stuff, you know, and go through stuff, and that what we're seeing in front of us. No. And from what I've, you know, seen, the old thing of the aftermath is there's so many people that have been through it, like you, who get angry about being a victim, and me, and they run away from it. They don't want to be seen as that. And of course you don't want to be perceived as that. And also there's an element of not wanting to be vulnerable. You know, I have spent years in silence but when I'm around people, I bring this biggest bravado. I'm the gobby one. stay away from me. That's what that is, you know, that you don't know, because you can't see past this, because I am vulnerable. I can't be vulnerable, you know. There's very much a lot of that going on, and it's crazy how it makes you feel. And someone said on one of my comments, you know, I no longer feel like I'm insane and like I'm going to be put in a straitjacket and like they're going to take my kids away from me, because that is how I felt at one point. I felt insane. I felt sick, and all this trauma layer. But just, and the thing is, you say about me speaking, I never knew I could speak this way. I never knew I could write this way. I'm 40. And that's right now what I'm probably angry about all this time. I can never see any good in me, or even focused on myself in this way. And how many people out there have got stuff going on, but they don't see it because the trauma, this black cloud that is descended on them by someone else, you know. And it's about working our way through it, I believe personally.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I wanted to say something too, because you know, you touched upon something that it's how people perceive you, how you internalized everything, how, you know, the time that you're now 40, and you know, and you're talking about that, and we were talking before we started, and I said to you that the worst thing about this whole freaking mess is that nobody can give me back the past 10 years. Time is something. I am sicker. You know, your job prospects are less. Your reputation is completely gone. Your health is not, especially for me, you know, it's not. So I feel like I've spent 10 years fighting, not only against my ex-husband, because he was given, this is why I'm so angry. I think this is one of the things that really affect me with people like Amber Heard, Meghan Markle, and Harry, because they are enabled to continue abusing people without any accountability. And I see that happen to me with my ex-husband. That he was backed by very powerful people, and there are absolutely zero consequences for us. You know, he's living his best life. Everybody, he was a poor me, lying about everything, and the government knew he was lying. There are zero consequences. This is why when I see the aftermath of everything that Harry and Meghan are doing, that their aftermath has no consequences. And the people that they're victimizing are the ones who are being trashed. And we, for calling them out or trying to say, listen, this is not right. For me, that's what bothers me.
Yeah.
The zero accountability of their actions.
No, definitely.
Makes any sense to you? It's
no,
like,
absolutely, every sense. And it was the same with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard, and the way I just felt this injustice, and no, you're not going to do this. And the same with Meghan and Harry. It's like, no, you are not. And when I see that they had said, I see headlines about, because of the spare, and it's wrote about William and Harry and their scuffle, and I see a news article, a news presenter sort of saying about how the police could be involved for domestic abuse. I was like, no. And when they say that Charles was financially abusing him, I used to watch my mom literally run to the postman and take the letters and hide them, even though she was working 3 jobs and he was spending all the money and the bills wasn't paid, but she was scared of the wrath. That what Harry has faced is not financial abuse. And I can't not speak upon that. You know, and like you with your story and having all these international sort of know that you have such a rich connection to that, you know, Harry and Meghan in what they're doing in your story. You know, I look back now, my biological dad, I haven't got a lot of a relationship. I tried, but it just doesn't work. There's too much water. I had him on a pedestal once I realized he existed, because I didn't know. I thought my abuser was my dad till I was 9 years old. And a few years ago, I had a message off my sister, his daughter, to say he was in a hospital bed and it wasn't looking good. And I had that choice in that moment. This man who's not even been there for me, really, and I've had all this life, but what do I do? And I went to give him that peace, to give myself that peace, to be a good person. And the fact that her dad gave her all of that and she still couldn't go to his hospital bed, in my opinion, is just way off. Like, what, you know? And that's my connection to it, where I'm like, what, you know? And they've unearthed this connection to people by cashing in the way they have and made it not, it's not, they've connected all
They have
sorts of people
monetized
to them.
abusing
Yes,
people. They have
yes,
monetized
yeah,
abusing people. They're
yes, they
making
have.
money out of abusing their family.
Yeah,
That's what they're doing.
yeah,
And what is worse is that everybody around them know that that's what they're doing.
yeah.
That's what really annoys me. You know, I have this enchantress. For me, being in an abusive relationship is hard, but the aftermath, how I'll start over again, is hardest. Had to pick the pieces again and had to put a brave face. Enchantress, I think Tina and I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. It's not hard. Really, it's not hard to get at that relationship. It's just scary because we're worried of the unknown and we're so conditioned to, you know, the consequences. And sometimes the fear is bigger than the reality.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it is exhilarating. And one of the most shameful moments for me is when my 11-year-old son, you know, when was crying to me, telling me, why didn't you get out early? My son at 11 years of age weighed less than a 7-year-old kid
Mm-hmm.
because of the stress, you know, and everything. And when my son cried and told me that, I felt like the worst mother on earth. And it wasn't fear of Alf. I wasn't scared of him. I could have beat the shit out of him. But, you know, that's not it. It's just that I felt that if I defended myself, they would put me in jail for defending myself, and my son would grow up with this abusive man.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of the times, once you take that step, you will find people.
Yeah.
You know, reach out to me, reach out to Tina.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
there are nowadays. There's a lot of communities for people with this. Just look at it, Google it in your local area. But the fear is usually what holds us back. And starting over, I mean, for me, it's a little bit harder because my case was so public. It's still public. Norway has still not apologized. You know, and it went on for so long, and it was so public. And I'm still dealing with the consequences of that. People still call me, oh, you were in jail. And it's like, no, I wasn't. Oh, your husband in the custody. I won all the court cases under different international treaties, but that's not what the press put out there, you know? So for me, it's going to be a little bit harder, but I'm very happy with the decision I made. And I would not trade it back for anything in the world, because I showed my son that when you are telling the truth, for it.
The one thing I have learned of all of this with AH, and truth will always prevail. I believe the truth will always prevail. And that lady, but the aftermath, you know, it is. And this is why people need to be prepared, I think, when they get out of abuse, you know, that the aftermath, this regime you've lived in, it is going to impact you. It's going to be a part of you. It's okay. You're safe. You know, your mind will go to these places. There are so many people, my followers, that have been put on tag, been declared as bipolar. And it's just, it's in my eyes, we're all carbon cutouts of the same narcissist handbook. You know, it's all interlinked, and you will get there. And like I said, it's the happiest day of my life, and yet my mom was laying in that bed thinking she had taken us away from our home and our friends around the corner. Yet for us, it was pure
freedom.
But and this is the thing, I think, when you've been through abuse, when you've been to the depths of what you faced with that battle with your ex and people who's been through abuse, when you've experienced such horrific, you know the difference between good and bad. on all sorts of levels, you know the contrast. And I don't think anyone really, like, obviously you have some which do the whole I had my life like that and I'm going to carry on that way, because it does happen, and but in general, people who have been through abuse just want peace. They just want, just a bit of accountability and validation, and just to be heard and seen. And I think a lot of people who've been through abuse don't get seen, because these conversations don't get had, and they're stuck in silence, in the abyss, like they're nothing, like their abuser told them they were nothing. So
It's also disheartening for people, but this is the thing that, for example, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, that this woman, it's very blatant that she kept lying about it. She was lying. And she kept, and I said to people, these kinds of people, instead of admitting to it, they escalate their lies. They become bigger and massive. No, Johnny Depp put a bottle in me. I mean, Johnny Depp's smaller than she was. He had a bleeding finger that she'd severed, and somehow he managed to grab her with one hand. I think, the lies become so outrageous.
Yeah.
My worst part of it all was I was completely disgusted with the fact that she was not charged for perjury. Nothing had happened. Nothing happened to her criminally because she committed perjury. And not only that, but CBS or one thing gave her an hour to talk about how she's going to keep fighting for her truth, because she will never admit to what she did.
She won't.
And Johnny Depp let her off lightly by not forcing her to pay. And for me, I was a little bit upset about that, because it's not about the money. It's about holding her accountable.
Yeah. But then you will have, and to me, there's a victim and there's an abuser. Like, at this point, I would say a big chunk of people were shocked, to align with Johnny Depp at that point. I didn't go into that case thinking, I watched Edward Scissorhands once, so I'm going to support Johnny Depp. Nobody did. Like, we were magnetized it because it was domestic violence. And I think it was that you knew it was going to be bad for you. You knew it was going to take you to a trigger, but you couldn't not watch. I took a week off annual leave. I had to watch her on that stand. I needed to see. And it did take me like so many. It took everyone to a place, but I feel like ultimately, in the end, it was a good trigger, because it created the aftermath. Really, I would never have spoken out like I did, but Amber Heard, I got no time for that. That what she did and what. But the fact that even the media was still trying to carry on that narrative, the ACLU still had and all these companies were still in. When was it? I think it was Vogue or something. Is it released that thing, Believe All Women sort of kind of vibe? And it was like, no, because I'm a mom to a son, actually, and this is a dangerous direction we're going down if that's what we're going to do. And I see some people posting, well, it doesn't matter if she's telling the truth or not, we believe her because she's a woman. No.
It is actually quite, I don't know, I'd be saying that somebody wanted to follow me and try to reach out to her in the comments, but she never acknowledged it. By the way, I am dyslexic, so I don't read the comments very fast. And anybody who's been following knows that. So I apologize for that, but I do have an email address that people can reach me to it, whether it's to me or to Tina, but Tina, I mean, I for me, when I run into your channel, it was by coincidence, the TikTok feed, right?
Yeah.
Because I actually look for psychology thing, and then, but then you popped in, and I was like, oh wow, and I hope you can come back and do more lives. I mean, I'd be more than happy.
I'd love to.
I've
done it.
Over to your channel, to do a live. We can talk about things like this. But I mean, what would be? I saw a comment from a lady that said, I didn't want to get out because something along the lines, if I understood correctly, because of my child. Let me tell you, you should get out because of your child, because you do not want your child growing up in that environment.
Well, it's not only growing up in that, it's the aftermath of living that, you know. I feel like we're lucky to survive domestic violence, but there are so many, and sadly a few of my followers have lost their brothers to unaliving of themselves who grew up in that abuse. You know, it damages, it sticks, and it's saving your child in the then and later on, because sadly it's domestic abuse, domestic violence, that manipulation are taken in the way I see it. You know, they come along and they strip you back and they replace buttons in you which they press, and you are. So I applaud anyone who's got the strength, and they build that strength up to get out. And for the ones that are still in, they need to, like, this is why the conversations need to be had about the long-term damage as well of the aftermath of domestic abuse.
Yeah, you know, I would love to have maybe next week if you have time, because I mean, this was just to introduce you. If you want to have me over to your channel, I'll be more than happy to go. Because I want you to get as many subscribers as possible. I hope you got quite a few when you leave.
Brilliant.
But I would like to get deeper into mostly how the feelings of when you're in that situation, and because we touched upon a little bit about that, but people don't understand how dark it can get. But for me, you know, I don't know about you. I mean, for me, I don't know about you, but for me, for example, when my ex-husband used to beat me up, he used to say, "Why are you making me do this to you?" I don't know if you ever heard that. You know, you make me do this to you. It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and you're apologizing as they're beating the hell out of you. You know.
Well, with the beam of light on her face, look what you've made me do to us. That was our fault, you know. And you know, do you know what? You know, even though they're that bad and they're that evil, even their subconscious, their actions and behaviors, they know that it's wrong, but they need to blame someone. That's their body naturally reacting, isn't it? That's them, you know, sort of, I need to blame someone for this because I don't know. Who knows the way they work?
Because they want to be victims. They are victims. You know, in many ways, it's
fault, not mine.
It's your fault. Yeah, it's just like Harry and Meghan Markle. It's like there's no accountability. There's always excuses. You know, it's my grandmother didn't want to let me stay in and half out, even though that's what they technically have. You know,
they do.
Only gave me $4 million. You know, dollars. You know, and I had to live off the 30 million my mom left me. You know, I mean, when I hear that. that is so vulgar. It really
is. And Nottingham Cottage as well. You know, the fact that they sit there and go, "Oh, Oprah's like, you wouldn't believe it," and it's just, you what? Are you for real? There are people. And the thing is, as well, it was the timing as well. No time would have been good to do this.
It's like COVID. Everybody
just got out of a pandemic where people have lost, and there have been lies and manipulation, and the biggest pandemic ever. People are struggling. Gas bills are through the roof. And you rake in millions telling us that your cottage was too small, your free cottage, which...
It's not a cottage. It's cottage. For our American friends who are watching, it's not a cottage. It is a mansion. It's just called Throckmorton Cottage, you know, but it's a mansion, okay?
It's on the grounds of Kensington Palace, but it wasn't the palace, you know, and it's like...
it's palace adjacent.
And you know what? There's a video.
I'm sorry. I mean, when you hear that, you know, I have kids in the school that now I'm trying to build an additional shed, because there's a program in the United States called Parole, which means people from Nicaragua, they can go without a visa as long as they have a sponsor. So I suddenly find that the mothers of these children took off without telling them, you know, and they sleep in the streets. To begin with. They don't have a home. And I got people think, they sleep literally on the streets, like on the soil on the streets that you see here. Okay. So the kid wakes up and the mother is gone. And he thinks she's going to work earlier or sell whatever it is, and she never come back. She came back, but they come to the school and they have their breakfast, and we look after them and their lunch, and then it's like they go back and then they come back late that afternoon. 3 of the kids got roughed up and stuff like that, and so I'm trying to build a shed in the back, trying to see if I can get some beds, and stuff like that, so they can come and live there. But a bunch of these kids are now abandoned. And when I hear Megan that there were palaces adjacent, and that Harry, I had to live off what my mom left me, the 30 million pounds my mom left me. That only gave me $4 million to live. It's like,
Yeah.
in the Freedom Flight and the private plane that Tyler Perry sent them. How would you feel? How do you feel as a person who actually has gone through violence, who went to a shelter? I mean,
Do you know what? It's when you see a mom rocking, I think that is quite poignant to me, because she's that traumatized, and that's the control someone had over her, where they literally took over her. And to watch these two parade around as a victim it's disgusting. It's heartbreaking. And as well, I think anyone that's been through abuse, to watch a family break down in front of your eyes as well, and to watch the Queen and the feelings she would have had associated to that. Charles, a dad who, love him or hate him, he's a dad. And Charles, William, and Harry were a threesome. There was never any, when they were together, where you looked and thought, Harry's left out. It was literally a trio. If anything, William and Harry were like the real salt and pepper. It was never any different from the minute Diana died. And that funeral, I remember coming down the stairs when Diana had died, and my mom was sobbing in the kitchen like everyone else. And I can only imagine. Yeah. It sent ripples. But to watch it now, where she's been turned into a meme in that New York car chase, and he's done that, with what
that was
he's
actually
done.
disgusting. Do you think he did that, or do you think Megan set it up? Because he looks.
She's ordered more. That's not
No, but he looked. I gotta tell you, even though I hate his guts, even though I hate his guts, because I think he's a traitor and a wanker. You don't abuse elderly children, and you don't abuse anybody, but elderly and children are off limits in my book. But Megan and Doria, I find Doria, it's actually quite evil. I'm sorry. I find this woman truly evil for me. I have this really bad vibes from this woman. And then because she's fostering this lack of union, this hostility, instead of saying, Megan, come on, but I saw him. I mean, you can see his face. You can see her face is like smirking, trying not to smile, and Doria's on the phone. But you can see Harry. Truly, I really do think that moron didn't know that Megan had phoned Bagrid, and they had told him to follow them because they were going to a restaurant to eat. And of course, Bagrid, like the Bagrid guy said, they told us to follow them. One of her staff, and there were, but you can see he is truly triggered.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if you saw a video I did when the Netflix thing came, when Harry and Meghan are in the back of the car, and they say, oh, there's that pap following us. The way this woman is sitting there cruelly, and you can really immediately see Harry go like, where? And Meghan, safety first. What did you think of that?
That is one for me, because I see that, and it's sort of like, would you, knowing his backstory, would you not wait and see if those paps grew? Would you? But she really feeds that fear, in him, in that Netflix. That was one for me also.
But she's offhanded. She said, "Oh yeah, security, safety first." I mean, to me, that's a chilling moment. Yeah. But anyways, I'm going to let you go because it's been 2 hours, but hopefully we can do it next week.
Yes, definitely.
And beautiful people, if you want me to come to your channel to do it, that's great. And then just tell me when, and you want me to come, and I'll make myself available to you, or we can do it in my channel. I have no problem, but we'll sort it out, because I do really think that if anybody, woman or man or child, they find themselves in an abusive situation, um, it don't, it feels dark, but it's not. And
Hmm.
I know, like you say, that a lot of people are where it's happening, but nobody wants to interfere. I don't know if, that's still the case in many places. I don't know if that's the case anymore, but
Hmm.
you're not alone,
No,
and staying in that situation is never the answer, because
no,
trust me, there will be at least one person who will help you.
yeah, they will.
I don't
They
know if
will.
you, but did you get that feeling too?
Well, that there would always be one person to help.
Yeah. Or there's a way
Um,
out always, that
I feel like there's always a way out now, knowing what I knowing no, whilst you were in it, you don't feel that. Of course, they want you to feel that way. They want you to they recreate you. You know, you are beholden to them. Even when we got out, we were feeling bad that he was alone. You know, that's how strong it is. But if conversations carry on happening, I feel like people will know that there's always someone there to help. And you see posters up on the back of pub toilet doors and stuff we have here, and there are numbers you can ring, but it's hard, isn't it? Because by which point now, if you're heavily in it, you've probably been back to your family countless times. You don't want to keep going back to them and being that burden, because the shame that they put in you, you don't want to be that one, and you don't want to be that victim either. And it's just the whole thing of where it silences you. But once they do get out, there is free, like a freedom,
I mean, do you think now,
priceless.
right now you're 40 and you have a husband, you have a home, you have beautiful kids. Do
Yeah.
you think when you were 4 or 5 or 6, you would be in this position you're in right now?
No,
Okay,
I
so
didn't see a future. It was sort of
but
just survival day by day. It's not like you get home from school and you're having conversations around the kitchen table. It's not like you're being propelled. It's not like you're being encouraged, you know. I sort of got on dead in the curb. Gutter, it wouldn't matter by him. So it's not like you're being encouraged to do. Your children are just in survival mode day by day. They're not being children. They're not they have no prospects in my eyes. You know, you can do all you can as a mom, and keep them safe. And my mom, and I always say to her actually now, because you know my mom was always there. I was lucky, you know, in the respect that my mom was always there, and she, in this feared state. Now it's only just I realized she always had a dishcloth in her hand, and she was always cleaning and tidying. I now know, looking back, that was out of fear of it being a mess. That was a fear of triggering him off. The reality is he was going to do that to her anyway, whether there was a hand mark or
there
not,
was
you
always
know.
something.
It was about his mood. It wasn't about what she was doing. He would find an excuse anyway. And she, I suppose, by her always trying in this worried state, it's sort of, and her always working the 3 jobs to pay the bills, she's encompassed this us to survive like we have, you know. So, but in the time, did I see any future for me? No, I didn't look past each day. And that's a child's life and abuse in my eyes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but the message I want to give to those children or people who are listening is that look at Tina's success story, that there's always a way out.
Yeah.
And don't buy into the person who's telling you that there's none. My cat's name is Karen is saying, what do we do about it? What can we do? For me, I have that little school, and whenever I see any form of abuse, I get involved. I stop or I go or I say something. The other day, I grabbed, I don't know, I saw this man beating I don't know if it was his girlfriend or something here out in the street, and I just got involved. And the thing is, people are around and they're not doing anything. So I got involved. And as soon as they saw me get involved, other people, I started yelling, why are you standing there like morons? Get involved. So I remember I remember I grabbed this stick that they were out there, and I just started beating the guy. And then because they see me white and they think I'm posh, other men started, getting involved, and stuff like that. Get involved if you have suspicions that a child is or a person, a woman, a man is being and abused. Don't let the myth of, oh, we shouldn't interfere, you know
Mm-hmm.
no, interfere. The law
Mm-hmm.
says that by law you have to interfere, you have to report that, help. Apathy is the worst thing,
Mm-hmm.
my opinion.
People are scared. People are scared to get involved nowadays. People are, and that's the saddest thing. And that's why awareness. I did have a older gentleman comment in saying, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry that." He said about his 3 daughters, and now he's spoken to his daughters now, and it's like it's having those conversations, isn't it? In installing strengths in your children and being aware, so as your kids get older, you can show them boundaries. And what can we do? Domestic abuse, domestic violence, it's never going to stop. Let's be honest, there's always going to be that one. We even get them on the main stage, sort of, parading around like victims. It's they're there. But I feel like it's having the conversations to actually convey how much they take over one's mental state, how they control them in every way, and how they damage them in the way they do. I think people just go, like you said, that people say, put up with it, or what, like they rejected you when you went to the police station, and what you here for, and it's that needs to change, and I think people need to understand the sheer ferocity of what they do and the aftermath of what they do. So obviously I never thought that I'd be here at nearly 40 speaking to you about domestic abuse and domestic and the aftermath. I never, as a child. And people say I've got great emotional intelligence, and that's the good I will take from that abuse. And I was learning obviously behind the scenes without even knowing it, because it's like something's gone off in my head and I'm like to you all. But then I worry, because I do stress that I'm not an expert, I'm just someone who went through abuse, and that's
But that makes you an expert. You're somebody who went through abuse, and like, we can this is when I recognize certain signs, and I go, I can spot, now you can spot the signs immediately. It's like, because you've lived it. And if they say that you need 10,000 hours to become an expert, I think that we have more than 10,000 hours, in that field. So I think, people listening to others and their experiences, how they got through. So maybe it'd be nice to do the live, how you got through, your real story, how you really got out, and how you felt getting out. What have you discovered nowadays is available? What's the difference back then to now?
No, definitely. At the end of the day, I think many lived it, they breathed it, they slept it, and they woke up to it. That's the reality. And there's a lot of emotions there, and there's a lot to unpack for a lot of people. A lot of people try and get away from that, but it's always there, so it's about, I'm definitely open to conversations about it, Paula, and thank you very much for seeing the aftermath. Thank you for inviting me on today. And I'm sorry that you too, there's so many. And you know what? The more conversations I'm having, because when I first started doing TikTok, people I work with, I keep it secret. And it's like it's little secrets. Don't want them. Now I'm just very open. The amount of people that are opening up everywhere I go, and it's like, so thank you so much for having us. And
no, I thank you for coming. I'm a massive fan, and let's schedule it for next week. Like, when you have time, let me know, because I'm very flexible with my time.
Okay.
So all you have to tell me is when it suits you, and then we can take it from there. And I think these conversations, we have to take the shame away, the fear, because in spite of the fact that there's a lot of social media, people would think that this is a very easy topic to speak about, and now everybody can get on the phone and talk about. It's very hard. It is very difficult.
Yeah.
You know,
No, it really is.
difficult. It is difficult sometimes when I talk about it. I think about it because I get a lot of hatred
Yeah.
still, and then I think I'm still embarrassed to talk about it for some reason. You know, it's like
Mhm.
why did I allow this? Why, you know, I
Yeah.
I don't know.
See, now I just simply, because I've slowly connected the dots, understanding the whys to I feel the way I do now, I've slowly placed that away and gone, you know what? That wasn't my fault. I should never have gone through that. Just like you should never have gone through that. And a lot of people watching on should never have gone through that. And the silence of domestic violence keeps you locked in. And that with all the emotions connected it, like you with your anger and me, I'm crazy. I cry at everything. I feel it there. I feel the heartbreak. You know, it's like I said in that one post. You know, it sucks to be like this at times, you know. I wish you didn't see. I wish I didn't feel it. I wish I didn't react to Harry and Meghan or Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Most people just go, oh, whatever. There's a couple of celebrities. Feel it. There's a reason why we're reacting. And I've had so many, you
Yeah,
know.
it's very guttural, you know, for me.
Yeah,
But for me, what really bothers me is the lack of accountability,
yeah,
that people continue to
hmm,
defame.
yeah,
Defame is a form of abuse.
yeah,
Uh, Defame, lie about others, cause harm to others, their family
mhm,
members, and they're getting away with it. And it
yeah.
really hits home for me personally. You know,
Because you've been that victim of that,
yeah,
you
because
know. Yeah,
I live it. I
yeah,
live it every day. I still get touched, I still get hate mail. And yeah, my son, you know, I'm struggling to put my son through university. I have this school, you know, I still have to survive my with my little with my farm and the workers, you know, I employ only women and stuff like that. It is a struggle, you know, and I try to do as much as I can, but I still get a lot of hatred because of everything that's been going on, you know, and the reason why I speak out against Harry and Meghan Markle is first because I am a monarchist, I am Canadian, and second because, and I don't just call them out, I also call out Charles, Camilla, and whoever is not behaving correctly. You know,
mhm,
I think that,
yeah.
and I talk about other people as well. So,
Mm.
but I just don't like lack of accountability. I really
Yeah.
don't.
I done a post on it the other day where I just said A for accountability, because no one took any accountability for what happened to us. And this is why I seek it in others. I seek that as a balance to others. And if they're able to take accountability, because I've spent most of my life taking accountability for stuff that probably weren't even my fault, because I always question my position and what I've done and what they've done. And when I see no accountability being taken, red flags go off, you know. And I think many people who feel the same in this situation.
And for me, it makes me feel less of a person, like I don't matter. Because
Hmm,
why is that person who has lied, put me and my son through hell, is being
hmm,
rewarded?
yeah,
My son and I are going through so much hardship. And that's why it bothers me, the injustice of it all.
hmm,
You
yeah,
know, so, but anyways, thanks for being
yes.
here. Let me
Keep going and going.
yeah, I apologize. I took so much of your time.
No, not at all. Thank
But
you again,
let's
and
plan it
thank
for
you to
next
everyone.
week, people. And please go subscribe to the Aftermath. It has been pinned on the entire live, pretty much. It's a yellow thing with the blue link. You just have to click on it and go subscribe. And also go to her TikTok channel because it's fantastic. But please, I hope you post more videos on your YouTube so you can grow.
I will. To
grow.
be honest with you, I'm new to this. The TikTok, I've hit the ground running. Aftermath's growing. And then one of my videos got stuck and it went on to Reddit. Then it went on to Twitter. And the Trig, Trig, put it on her. And then I was like, do I go over there? So I went onto YouTube, but then YouTube's not a very easy one to crack. So congratulations to you for your following.
I don't
And
even know how. I don't even know why people follow me. I'm a weird lady with an accent who's angry most of the time.
we will always question why they follow us, I think, and it's a weird thing, isn't it? It's like, what have I got to say? I think, you know, because we're in that thing of like figuring ourselves down, but you know, you're very good and your content is spot on. All I know how to do is speak to camera, put some background music, you know. And
I do the same. You know, do you know who my producer is? Siri. There's my puppy. Even my producer abandoned me. My producer, Siri, my dog. That's it. I have a little phone camera, and if you look at my old videos, I used to do walks in Norway or whatever it was, because I was just so alone, going through the trials and literal trials, and I was just alone and scared, and I, my son, I didn't want to burden my son with anything, so I would go for walks, and then I started talking, and that's it, really. I don't have a big show or anything.
But you know what? You did there, though. This is you found yourself. This is how you survive. You were going on those walks. You started talking. You found some good in that moment, for you, alleged for you to sort of, and this is what we do. And I think we so much navigate on the negative or how angry we get, and we don't see those glimmers of moments where actually to get through that moment, for you to help you be there for your son, you found a way, even if it is like, for me, searching for my granddad's grave, it's finding something to get you through, and that's how you survive.
And I'm very thankful to my subscribers, and I remember one time, I don't know if I had like a glass of wine, I was crying, because I'm always get emotional, like they have no idea what I was going through. I would go to bed thinking, in a country that's incredibly racist, and with my son, I didn't know what was going to happen with my son in Norway. This is just recently. My son also, everything was in upheaval. It's a country that was persecuting me for years, and I would go to bed every day. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have anybody to talk to, and so people would write to me, the ones that weren't hate letters, but then I would concentrate on the people who are very kind and would listen, and just talking about crazy things that had nothing to do with what I was living really helped me. So I'm always very thankful to my almost subscribers, because you got me through really, really rough times. I still haven't come to grips with everything, because I feel that once
it's like fear. It's fear, isn't it? It's fear of opening it up and letting it all out. You think, what's he going to do? It's just going to. And I used to find with my therapy sessions, I had a few, about 6 weeks worth, like over a span of time, and I'd go and I'd feel elated that day when I come out, like pure validation, and the next day I'd just go vroom and crash. But this is the process. It's scary to be vulnerable to feeling those feelings, and that's why I feel like in a safe space, like the aftermath. Now I put poems up, and they are triggering. I've started to go into poems, and so I panic that I'm triggered, but I feel like it's just letting people, it's like a soft trigger of them actually realizing, shit, that I've been through that, and that's me. But then in that moment of having that trigger, next time they go to that place, they're like, yeah, that's the PTSD. And I feel like it's just a gentle, that's my aim anyway. They might all be broken. You might all be broken by the time I'm done.
No. But I mean, I love it. And I'm so thankful to you for accepting and yeah, you have no idea how thankful I am that you're here. And many of the people here have spoken out about their issues of abuse too, and that's amazing. I'm thankful to you guys for speaking out and how courageous you are. And we're gonna do this again.
Yes,
and
we will.
This is the safe. And if you have friends who want to come and speak as well, open platform, the more the merrier, like people, if you have a psychologist a friend who's a psychologist, or whoever who wants to come here and help us navigate these very tough waters. This is not a channel for me. That's not what this is about.
No, absolutely. And that's what the aftermath
channel for me. I'm gonna get even. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just this.
No, you know what though? I feel like
is trying to tell you that this too shall pass. My dad used to say. Used to say, Paula, this too shall pass. It's like, and there's always another day, and to let people know you have more power than what you are told not that you don't have.
The biggest revenge is to get yourself into a place of peace, I think, and letting go of that and not letting it control you, even down to the angry emotions. It's just being like, that happened. I can't change that. It will always be a part of my story, but it doesn't have to consume my life, you know. And I think and it's not about being a victim at all. It's about finding a way past that.
And how to deal with the aftermath.
And raising awareness for the aftermath.
Name, the aftermath. I love it, you know, because that's what people are most afraid of. Because I think that, like this lady said, but if I leave, what's going to happen next? What's going to be the aftermath? What, you know, what are the consequences? First, you're going to be out of an abusive relationship, which is a plus always. You know, and
I just read that comment. You content creators don't realize how much you help us civilians.
And you're amazing. You have very amazing thing. This is why I wanted, because I want to encourage you to please do you put more stuff on your YouTube channel, because a lot of people, more people go to YouTube than TikTok, because I find that TikTok is very, very censoring, even more so than YouTube.
Okay, I will move over to YouTube more. It's just, obviously I'm trying to do wife life, mom life, you know. I've got, it's just balancing it today. It's just been work, parents' evenings. I was like, oh my God, I've got to do this. And the thing is, you've helped me step out of my comfort zone today, because I avoid lives. I don't do them because I have these rules set in place, and that's how I've navigated. Because I like to censor myself to protect myself from the overthinking, the catastrophizing. Oh, what have I said wrong? In a live, you sort of, it's on the go. And yeah, and I see that post earlier. You know, I want to show people that we can push ourselves. And you know,
this is not, I mean, I am a 54-year-old woman. I'm not like a young chick that is beautiful or anything like that, you know. So, and I still put myself out there. So you're beautiful, you're amazing, you know. So, but thanks anyways for coming, and we will see next week. And I will talk to you, and we'll organize another. And if you have anybody else you'd like to bring in, always
absolutely welcome. Brilliant. Thank you, Paula. Bye, everyone.